Joining with me today is Arnold, the Emperor, the Grand Admiral, and we're going to go over a bunch of unreleased cards. Not just the unreleased cards, but unreleased cards that are currently showing up with the silhouettes in game. So like when a card comes to the game and you get a silhouette and you can't see it. For example, right now there are a couple cards here that are coming this series right here. This is Kang. And this is kind of interesting. If you hit base card and then you hit on the artist name, it actually tells you what the card does. Like, so I don't think this is supposed to be an interaction that they wanted, but it's, and someone in chat pointed out to me, it says on reveal, look at what your opponent did, then restart the turn without Kang. So that's very obviously Kang. Now, the cost and the power is wrong, but you can go and identify what all of these cards do. So this is Hitmonkey, and it says gain +2 power for each other card you played this turn. Now, originally this card said gain 3 power. And so what does that mean about data mines?
It means they're subject to change.
Yeah, so please take all of this information with a grain of salt that these are not released information. It's basically all subject to change. And if you want to look at this yourself, you can sort by quality and then you can do unowned with all variants unselect. So you just hit unowned and then you will see not only all the cards that you don't own where you can actually see what they are, they'll be grayed out, but then you'll see the silhouettes of cards that are coming to the game. So we're going to go over all of the cards, briefly talk about Kang and stature, but we're going to start off with Hitmonkey, which was DATAMINE to be the next season pass. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, but I was so far all the characters that have been like the season pass cards seem like big deal characters. I've never heard of Hitmonkey before, so it's definitely not like a MODOK or Silver Surfer, Black Panther, or anything like that. But it seems like a lot of fun though if you're gonna be spamming a lot of cards.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be a very interesting card. On reveal, gain +2 power for each other card you played this turn. So if you play another card or you do something with Quinjet or with Beast or with Thanos or Sarah, this is probably going to be a very powerful turn 6 card where you're dumping your hand and 2, 4, 6, 8. Who knows? This could be a lot of power. I think this is going to be amazing.
I think you have to think of it this way. I think at most, let's say on turn 6, you play this card and you play a bunch of 0-cost cards. So what is that? At best, this is going to be a 2-cost, 12-power card, which isn't a bad, it's not a bad ratio of power. Probably one of the best budget cards in the game with that much power. And especially, you know, even if you take it a step further, let's say you Quinjet, Moon Girl, maybe play multiple Hitmonkeys or something like that and start spamming cards. That could be a lot of power. The problem that I have is people are starting to use Sandman right now. You know, whether or not Sandman's going to be meta contenders, it's a different story. But assuming that you can maybe spam Thanos stones or Sarah, Quinjet, whatever, this seems like it could be a lot of fun if you're not hindered from using that.
Yeah, and Sandman is a thing right now. And actually, I've been playing an anti-Sandman deck, the Shuri Zero deck, because it doesn't care about Leech or Sandman, because everybody's playing Sandman right now. And yeah, I'm curious to see how things shake out. I mean, the changes just happened yesterday, and Sandman is very interesting, and I'm glad that he has a place. So we'll have to see. So let's go to the next card. There's some questions about this card, but I'm highly, highly interested in this. You can move this once. Nothing can stop you from moving or playing this to any location. So this kind of feels like a variation of Nightcrawler, but maybe a bit better because of 2/3 power. What's your take on this card?
My first take is I'm very disappointed that you did not say, my name is Jeff.
Or Baby Shark do. We could have did that.
Baby Shark do.
Yeah, I don't know what this card is or as far as lore or anything like that. But Jeff the Baby Shark, the baby land shark, right?
Oh, the baby land shark. Yeah, it seems like in theory, if I'm understanding this correctly, could this scoot you into a Professor X zone miniaturized lab? I mean, it seems like it should be a more advanced version of Nightcrawler, or Space Throne. That'd be interesting. Maybe playing 2 cards. That just doesn't even sound right, but that's what it reads.
So my brain went to the same place as yours. Like, how does this interact with miniaturized lab? How does this interact with Space Throne? How does this interact with Professor X? And it seems like the wording is very specific. Nothing can stop you from moving or playing this to any location. Sounds like that trumps like the Professor X.
Nothing can stop you.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, that feels like it trumps that. So a lot of these cards that we're going to go over, we just really don't know how they work. And oftentimes in this game, you know, we look at like Yondu and things like that. Like they have to update the text later because it's vague and clarify. I'm highly interested in this card. Very, very interested. I think this card will see a lot of play. I mean, just putting him into Sanctum and things like that, I think that is a big deal. Next, Kang. We don't. Do we really want to talk about Kang? I feel like we've talked about Kang in like 3 videos or so.
I think, long story short, I think this is the one card, like just not as a reviewer, but as a player, we want to get this card. Like this card looks probably like one of the more fun ones that they've released in a little bit here. So yeah, that's up to you if you want to go more into it. But yeah, it's probably it's next week, right?
Yeah, it's next week. I just on my take is that Stature came out, and I think she's interesting, and maybe we'll see some play. We'll have to see. Do I want to spend 6,000 collector tokens on it? No. On her, I don't. And do I want to spend 6,000 collector tokens on Ghost? I didn't. But I do want to spend 6,000 collector tokens on King, and he should be coming out next week. There's a ton of questions about how this card works also, but I feel like this is going to be a turn 6 card rather than turn 5, and I expect it to be very powerful. All right, another card that we don't really understand.
Yeah.
Kitty Pride, which is also in the data mines in the game right here. You can return this to your hand to gain +2 power. When I first saw this card, is like, okay, so that would be interesting with Quinjet because then she would cost 0. How does this stack up compared to Sunspot? But you could move her into a different location every time, right? And the question is, can you play her and then bounce her back, or can you play her then bounce her back the next turn, and then can you replay her? Can you do it every turn? Can you do it every other turn? And my take is if you can do it every turn, you know, then she could ramp up to a 10 power pretty easily. But if you can do it every other turn, that is not as interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, so my understanding is you're going to play it turn 1, bring it back turn 2, get the power. Play it turn 3, play it turn, bring it back turn 4, you get the power. So it seems like you're going to get the power every other turn. That's not as interesting if you played every turn. It seems like a fun Sunspot. I think the way I pitched it to you was this is kind of like a budget vision where you can kind of move it to different locations every turn. So you know, it gives you flexibility to free up a zone or go into a zone that maybe needs it, maybe going to turn 6 or something like that. It's again one of those cards where we need to see how did the mechanics actually interact and you actually play it onto the field. So it could be hit or miss, but if you can make it free, you know, what are you going to complain about? Is even if it's like 0-6? I mean, is that horrible? I don't know.
No, that's good. And then you could place it where you want. And then, you know, then of course there's cards like Bast or Forge where I think Bast will get played with this card. I think that actually is pretty interesting. You know, turn 1 Bast.
I mean, I guess you can. There's ways to ramp it up. So let's say this is kind of stupid, but let's say you play Kitty Pride. The next turn you bring it back in the hand. You hit it with a Nakia or something. I don't know. You know, there might be ways of juicing up the power. I'm
just not sure exactly how it works. I think this card will see play. It might be situational, though, if it's every other turn, but very interesting for sure. I'm definitely interested now. Master Mold, I talked about this the other day. On reveal, add 2 Sentinel to your opponent's hand, and my initial thoughts is this is probably going to be one of the only, if not, or there's very few counters to Dracula. You see Dracula on the board and there's not much you can do about it, but you play Master Mold turn 6 and suddenly that Dracula now has a chance of being a 3 power instead of a monstrous 20 power Infinite or something else, right?
Yeah, I think what's going on here is it seems one to clog up your opponent's hand so they can stop drawing useful cards. There's not many decks that like Sentinel. It's pretty much just like Dino's like really the only deck that kind of enjoys Sentinel for the most part. And so it's kind of like maybe a version of Widow's Bite in a weird way where you can clog up someone's hand and then maybe you can follow up with Maximus, like you said, and then you don't have to worry about them getting the useful cards in their hand. I think ultimately, we talked about, or we're going to talk about Ronan. Ronan might like this a lot, right? Increasing the amount of cards in someone's hand, or I think it's also anti-Dracula. So yeah, I think the problem is with MODOK running around, you might need to leech them so MODOK can't destroy all the cards, and then maybe you do it afterwards.
Yeah, it seems very controlish. I think the idea is that there's a 7-card hand limit, and if you can fill them up, then they're not drawing cards. Ronan may not see play with MODOK everywhere, but Darkhawk likes people not drawing cards because then that means there's more cards in the deck. The other thought is, you play turn 2, Master Mold, and maybe their hand will be clogged, and then you can play Maximus without any downside risk, because they're gonna be clogged, right? And those Sentinels don't leave, right? They keep coming back. Even if you play them, they keep coming back.
They're gonna come back. You're kind of screwed. Yeah, it's a catch-22 situation. I feel like Ronan. Going back to Ronan, I feel like Ronan's one card or so away from being actually really good, like a Darkhawk of some sort. If you're forced to keep bringing Sentinels in the hand, that almost guarantees Ronan's going to maintain some level of power, and the only way to stop that is to have some mass discard effect, i.e. MODOK. But here's the thing: there's a counter to everything out there. But the question is that person running that deck? Maybe they didn't get MODOK in their hand because you clogged it up, and now they can't get MODOK into the hand. So there's a counter for everything. I think this might bring Ronan to an interesting degree of viability. Yeah, because the fact that you just can't get rid of Sentinels, you're going to be begging for a leech to stop the effects on Sentinel.
I hope so, because we played Ronan when we did that draft mode with the website, and Ronan was very strong. Very strong as a 5-drop in that particular game mode. It's just, I think discard decks kind of have ended that to a certain degree. All right, let's move on to the next card, and the next card is Negasonic Teenage Warhead. This card, I probably have the most interest in the cards we've talked about so far. After any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. And the way that I see this playing out is on turn 5, you play this into a lane, you're winning. So if you have priority, you play this card into that lane, your opponent also plays a card there, and they both explode. Or the next turn, for them to get ahead of you, they're going to have to play 2 cards into that location where the first card would explode. I mean, I don't think this would work necessarily against like Zoo decks or Sarah decks, but I think this would be insanely powerful against decks like Shuri that play big things on the last couple turns. I think this is an absolutely fascinating card.
This is probably the second or third card I'm actually looking forward to out of all these that we've talked about today. This one, it's kind of the first thing that came to my mind when we were going over this, like, oh man, what if you Moon Girl the Negasonic in turn 2? You could play both at our turn 6, you could play 2 of them, and then if you're winning, you just place one there, place one over there, and just blow up a couple zones. So it's almost like, because there's those few cards out there that kind of almost guarantee you're going to win, like Arrow. If you're winning in 2 zones, just arrow them into a zone that they can't really do anything much with, and you're going to win. So I feel like there's going to be ways to abuse this character a lot. This one I'm actually really looking forward to. And if they get destroyed, that's going to boost into, null and death and all these other things.
Yeah, so I think this card's going to see play, and I think the control aspect of it, especially playing it on turn 5 and then you're putting your opponent in a disadvantage on turn 6 or exploding the card they were going to put in there, especially if you have priority.
And the best thing is it's not an ongoing effect and it's not an on-reveal effect, so there's really no way of stopping it unless you leech it in their hand, right?
Yeah, I think we need to come up with a word for what kind of effect this is. I think the best way I could describe this is a passive effect. Like, it's just there. I don't know what to call it because it's not ongoing and it's not on reveal. It just is, I guess.
It just is. You're so philosophical. It just is.
All right, Nimrod. Nimrod. It's rumored that this is going to be the Battle Pass card for the following month after Hitmonkey. When this is destroyed, add a copy to each other location. Now, I don't think that this is better than like Arnim Zola Black Panther or something like that. But in destroy decks in general, or a deck with Destroyer, this is kind of like a miniature Doom. It costs 5. I think there's a ton of things you could do with this with Destroy. And also, turn 6 Galactus. Turn 6 Galactus, right? And then you have Wolverine bounce into the lane. You have Nimrod bounce into this lane. 5 power from Nimrod, 4 power from Wolverine, 2 power from Galactus. Maybe there's
something like that.
Maybe there's going to be Nova. Is this going to make like a turn 6 Galactus viable?
Turn 6 Galactus. It's like the ultimate pipe dream. Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind, we saw this DATAMINE a while ago.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to my mind was it's going to give destroy decks ways to access zones that they can't get, because otherwise there's not really a destroy deck that lets you get into other zones unless you Wolverine, and hopefully it goes into Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever the case might be, into Luke's Bar, Death's Domain, yada, 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 yada. What's going to be great here, though, what I'm wondering is, so let's say you destroy this and you spawn a few babies on the other side. When you destroy the babies, those should multiply too, right?
It's a copy, so it'll still have that text. Yes.
Yeah. So is there a way where you can like just fill up the whole board with 4 Nimrods in each zone? So just drop in, what is that, 20 power in each zone, or maybe like you play Galactus in a zone and you destroy 3 Nimrods. It would just fill up the Galactus zone. That's 15 power with Galactus. That's not a horrible turn 6 play.
It's possible. I mean, I think the only reservation I have against this card is the 5 cost. Like I feel like
you need to ramp it. Yeah, I'm reading your chat. You need to ramp it somehow, Electro or Wave or something.
Yeah, I suspect this will be working a ramp deck with Galactus, or I have to see. You could do Electro into Nimrod into Destroyer into whatever you want on turn 6. Well, because there's a Destroyer Galactus builds too, right? Where they have 2 win conditions.
That's what I run a lot,
yeah. So a 2-win condition Galactus, like half Galactus, half Destroyer build with Nimrod. I think it's going to be viable for sure.
Yeah, I think now that I'm talking about it, I think I'm more sold on it than I was before we talked.
Yeah. Okay. Next card, and this card is really super interesting. I mean, for 1 cost, and we don't know how this works because it says right here, while in your hand, and this is the part that's throwing me off. It says each turn, right? This transforms each turn into a hawk or a bear. We'll talk about hawk or a bear. And the question is like on the transform mechanic is mentioned not only in Gamma Lab, but Clintar. And when they transform into the symbiote or when they transform into the Hulk, they lose all of their abilities. So the question is, when this card transforms into Hawk or Bear, does it stop transforming? And if it does stop transforming, then why did they put this confusing text of each turn?
Each turn.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it going to change every turn that it's in your hand, or does it change once and then it's stuck as a hawk or a bear? No, let's read what the hawk is and read what the bear is. I'm interested in both of them. The bear right here, let's see if I can highlight it. The bear is on reveal, trigger the effect of this location. Now that doesn't seem as good as hawk, but where could you see use for the bear?
Shuri's lab, man.
Yeah,
that's like Shuri's lab, maybe making Gamma Lab go off again. If you want to be a real jerk, like, okay, oh man, imagine this. Is there a way, let's say Murder World, let's say your opponent waits after turn 3.
Yes.
They start filling up that location. They're like, I'm feeling so good. 1 cost, you activate the Murder World and you destroy their whole
Murder
zone
World
again.
says on 3, so it re-triggers it happening on turn 3. So I don't
3 again.
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
Or maybe triggering Death's Domain again or something like that.
There's probably a million ways of abusing this card. Because this game is all about locations, right?
It's not location. It's 50, 60, 70% of what the game is all about. And then RNG. And then having to write decks like 10% of the game, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, so that is interesting. But I'm more interested in the Hawk, which says on reveal, ignore location abilities next turn. Not just the location you play it into, but all locations. So that'll allow you to cheat into Sanctum, right?
Yeah, that's what or Sanctum, or maybe it's going to help you, get into Luke's Bar, just locations that are maybe hard to access, or Death's Domain. You don't have to worry about having the card get blown up when you played in Death's Domain. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm the inverse. I think I'm more interested in the bear than the hawk.
Okay.
I think just imagining. I know you're a big fan of Shuri. You make you play a big red skull in the Shuri's lab. They multiply. Imagine just playing this, and you're gonna make your red skull even bigger potentially. I think this is. Yeah, I'm more fan of the bear.
Or you trigger it again, and it gets Monster Island. Triggers again.
Take it a step further. You moon girl the Snow Guard.
Yeah, right.
And you just keep triggering Shuri's lab over and over again.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm
on Wong. Oh my gosh! All right, bigger brain. Wong on Shuri's lab with multiple Snow Guards with the red skull. Just keep triggering Shuri's lab multiple times. I don't know why I'm so fixed on Shuri's lab, but it's like the most obvious thing.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be like a huge surprise card. I hope it's not super situational. I hope
I got another. Hold on, another one.
Another one?
What if you have collapse mine and you re-trigger the collapse mine?
Yeah, I feel like there's like, I mean, because I've been playing a lot of Thanos, and I got to tell you, like the Reality Stone is so helpful in so many situations. Yeah. Maybe, you know, anytime you can manipulate the locations, but we haven't had a card that allows you to do these two mechanics. So it's very interesting.
I think it's going to be a big deal. I think it will be.
Yeah, and a one
cost, man.
2 power. All right, let's go. Right. All right. So I think that's going to be something we're talking about. Stature is in the game now. I passed on her. I didn't want to spend the 6,000 collector tokens. Looks like a lot of people are having good luck with her. We'll have to see, right?
Yeah, we gotta wait and see. Again, it just sucks that they don't. Everything's always got to be Series 5, 6,000 collector tokens. It just it would be. You brought up a great idea. I don't know if you want to bring it up here for another video.
So no, I'll talk about it here. Like, so first of all, I feel like new cards come to the game and there's a big so what? Like nobody cares. Like nobody has the card. Nobody knows if the card is good or bad. Why couldn't they do like a League of Legends thing where like everybody can play the card for a couple of days or a week, and then when the hype is built because everybody's had the opportunity of playing the card for free for a couple of days, then maybe people will choose to buy it or not. And then when we actually know if the card is actually good or bad, rather than guessing if it's good or bad. I just feel like there's no hype around new cards. It's barely even noticed in game. And unless you lose to it, you know, unless I start losing to this deck, what's for the incentive for me to like want this card?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically other games we play. They'll give like a character for free, but you can't like max it out. But you can still at least play it, get hype in it, and maybe incentivize people to spend the money, or, you know, even it might be even useful at low stars or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I wish. Yeah, I think they need to find a way to make new releases a little bit more hype, because sometimes I even realize, oh, it's like, oh crap, Ghost is in the game. I forgot about that. So yeah, I think I love your idea. Just it's a few days.
Oh, it's not my idea. Someone else said it in chat, or I heard it from somebody else, because I think they do this in like League of Legends or the marquee events or whatever in Galaxy of Heroes. Yeah, just to give people an opportunity to play them in advance for a limited amount of time. Or maybe you can only play it in 25 games or something, right?
There's got to be something. I think there's to be a test run, because otherwise there's only like 3 or 4 people in the community that actually review these cards.
Not a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Seems like fun too.
I don't know how to say this. Stegron. On reveal, move an enemy card from here to another location. And my small issue with this card is that it is move a random enemy card to a random location. Maybe this will be good, but it seems a little bit too situational for my liking. What's your take on this card?
It's an inverse Polaris, inverse Arrow, and it's kind of a related cousin to Juggernaut. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Okay.
You know, if you play it all right. So Arrow moves cards when people play cards, but what if an opponent feels so cocky? It's kind of like maybe a Magneto too. Let's say they're feeling so cocky about a zone, they ignore it. What if you play this card and you just move a card out of it, and you're going to steal that zone from them last second? So it's kind of like a Magneto, a little bit cheaper. I don't know. I think I like it. I think moving cards is such a big advantage.
I could see this being used like turn 3 Storm, turn.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah,
turn 4.
I like that better than Juggernaut, because then Juggernaut, you might accidentally kick a card into a good location, right?
Well, you could do it. The problem with Juggernaut is sometimes Juggernaut is awkward after that Storm play has already been made, and then you're kicking cards into the location, which this might also be awkward, right? Because it's random. What if you're kicking a card into Sanctum or something?
Yeah. But you can move this, I think, manually. Do you think you can manually move it, or it's going to be a random move like
my understanding? Well, I think that depends. Move an enemy card. If it's random, if you can control it
reads like Nightcrawler, where you can move and you can manually move Nightcrawler. So what if you're basically turning an enemy card into Nightcrawler and you can pick where it goes?
Oh, well, if that's the case, I think this card's amazing.
I mean, look, let me pull up Juggernaut. How does Juggernaut read? Because I think it reads different than Jug.
I don't know how Juggernaut reads, but if you can actually, if it's move a random enemy card to a random location, I don't think it's that great.
Different. I'm reading it right now. Here's Juggernaut. If your opponent played cards here, move them randomly. This does not have the word random in it. I think this is going to make you a lot more excited about this card.
I actually like this card then. I completely...
This is the other card I want to buy.
I completely changed my mind. If this is like you can pick the location and you can pick the card, suddenly almost like goes from like weird to like OP. This is gonna be good, man. Again, why do we have to buy the card to figure it out? If we could have this period where we could play the card a couple of times, then make a decision, wouldn't that be just a lot better?
Dude, think of this. What's that one location where you don't want a lot of power? Oh man, it's
bar with no name.
Imagine putting your opponent's card, like their biggest power card, Red Skull or something, over into no name bar, or whatever.
I'm just gonna put this out here. I think there's no possible way that you get to choose where this card goes. It doesn't
say randomly though. It doesn't say randomly. Like compare the text to like even Nightcrawler. It doesn't say move randomly. You pick where it goes. It just says move.
I really wish Second Dinner would like actually.
You can move this once. It doesn't say you can move randomly once.
Yeah, like, you know how many questions we've had about Ghost and King? I wish we could have just like known in advance, like better information on how the card's going to work. All right, the last card we're going to talk about is the Living Tribunal. At the end of the game, split your total power evenly among all locations. I see this being like really cool with like Mojo World, or, I mean, there's so many cards. I mean, Iron Man gets out of control. Black Panther gets out of control. Shuri, decks that run Shuri can get out of control, but typically it's in one location. And if you have the ability to split that, I think that's pretty good, especially like an inverted Iron Man, like a Mr. Negative deck. I think there's a lot of ways of using this, because even inverted, this would become a 4-cost, 6 power. Yeah, right.
And it's just like, so this is like kind of like how Kang's a more advanced version of Daredevil. This is a more advanced version of, like a way more advanced version of Mr. Fantastic. This is one of those cards that I'm highly interested in. It's because I love playing big power cards. The downside is they're usually stuck in one zone. If you can like evenly spread that across, like even make a big Null, like Null can sometimes have like hundreds of power, put Null in one zone, split it across evenly in thirds on the other zones. This is one of those cards. This card, Kang, Striggle, whatever that lizard dude was, and Snowguard are the ones that I'm very interested in. Those seem like a lot of fun.
Yeah, because I'm going to say some of the cards that we've been getting in the last month have been underwhelming, in my opinion. Just like situational or tech cards that only work in certain situations. And a lot of these cards I'm highly, highly interested. So I'm looking into the future of these cards. So
can I just say, this almost seems like a fan-made card. This seems too broken to add to the game. I mean, how do you stop this? It's not ongoing.
What is Arrow? What is Arrow going to do to this card?
Arrow's done. You can't arrow anything here. This is the biggest counter. I just like, how do you stop Valkyrie? I guess maybe you just like nuke a zone, remove all their power so they can't start spreading garbage power in 3 zones. This is gonna be a powerful card. Like this almost feels too good. I think there's some counter opportunities that I just threw out there, but dang, does this sound busted? Yeah,
and it triggers at the end of the game, so that it happens after the turn is over, like after Valkyrie's resolved, let's say, right?
Captain Marvel's gonna hate that. Captain Marvel hates end of game stuff. She sucks against Dracula, sucks against Mysterio, then she's gonna suck against this. This is gonna be a little wacky. For sure. So I think there's ways of handling it, but yeah, these are some cool cards. I'm hoping some of them come sooner rather than later. And some of the cards this year have not really tickled my fancy so far. Like I'm looking at it, it's like there's nothing I really want, but some of these, like, oh man, I am excited to try some of the stuff out.
I mean, I think Stature is interesting. I think Ghost is interesting. I think Shadow King was interesting. I think Shanna was interesting. These cards here look way better. And I'm glad that I'm saving my tokens. I've saved up like currently like 19,000 tokens, and I'm just waiting to get some of these cards because I think they're going to be amazing. Anything you want to say before we go?
I got to say one important thing. Thank you.
Yeah, you did wrong. Thank you. Bye for now. Like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. Boy.